After days of traveling, on foot and by carriage, Darian finally found himself aboard a train. The journey stretched on, long and quiet, as it cut across the Avaru countryside in a blur of silver and frost. Morning mist rolled lazily over the fields, softening the world into something distant, almost unreal. Inside his private cabin, for the first time in days, Darian was still. No running, no searching, just the steady rhythm of wheels against iron and the faint weight resting against his chest. The amulet. It lay against his skin, a half-circle of burnished silver etched with ancient runes too old for modern tongues. At its center, a suspended core of violet light pulsed softly, as though alive. He didn't remember the first time he had worn it, but now it felt as though it had always belonged there. Like something that had been waiting for him, calling him. His adoptive parents had told him everything they could about his lineage and his dual nature. The dreams, the pull, the madness he could never explain. And the amulet, given to them years ago by a cloaked stranger who had appeared without warning and vanished just as quickly, leaving behind only questions and a sense of urgency they never understood. It had happened on that same journey to the Temple of Silver Veil, the one where he had found her and lost her. Now, as the train carried him towards Naimeru Highlands in the Kingdom of Avaru, the only place she had ever named, his body finally began to give in. The exhaustion came quietly, then all at once. He leaned back, his hand resting over the amulet, feeling its faint warmth beneath his palm, as the rhythm of the train pulled him deeper and deeper into sleep. And then, the dream took him. As he slumbered, threads of silver began to weave and curl around him. He stood beneath moonlight, real moonlight. Above him, the sky shimmered with an enormous glowing orb. It was silver light shone very brightly. Before him stretched Lunaris, not broken, not cursed, alive. Its towers gleamed with silver veining, bridges wrapped in ivy and starlight. Wolves walked beside humans, not as beasts, but as kin, as equals. There was no fear here, only balance, only belonging.
And at the edge of it all stood a woman, cloaked in silver and sorrow. Serena. Her red hair fell unbound around her shoulders, her eyes wild with grief, as she clutched a newborn, wrapped in torn fabric. Her voice trembled as she whispered lullabies, in a language Darian did not understand, but somehow felt. And around her neck, an amulet, the same one he now has around his neck. Something in Darian's chest tightened. He knew there was more to this amulet. He just didn't know what it was. But he had a feeling Astriel might have the answer. Behind her, shadows moved. The king's guards, closing in. Serena turned suddenly, and her eyes met his. Across time, across memory. "My son," she whispered, like she was talking to him. The words were soft, fragile, but they struck something deep within him. And then she ran, vanishing into the mist.
Darian staggered within the dream. He knew she was his mother, but the child she carried was not him. Confusion twisted through him, his thoughts too heavy, too tangled to follow. The dream shifted. The world fractured. And the amulet around his neck pulsed with powerful energy. It seemed to draw life from Darian as the threads of time and destiny tightened around him. Darkness pressed in, then light. He stood again, this time on a hill overlooking Lunaris, bathed in pure moonlight. The air was crisp, alive with the scent of night jasmine and mountain pine. Below him, the kingdom shimmered like a living jewel. He didn't just see it, he felt it. The moon's presence pulsed within him, echoing through his veins like a second heartbeat. Every breath carried something ancient, something sacred. This place was part of him, or perhaps he was part of it. At the heart of the city, the moon temple rose, towering, radiant, impossibly vast. Its highest spire pierced the heavens, drawing down moonlight like a living beacon. Darian's breath caught. He knew this place. He had never seen it before, and yet it felt like home. He looked down. His feet were bare, his hands smaller. This wasn't just a dream. He wasn't just watching. He was remembering. The ground trembled. A shadow flickered across the moon, and something, deep and unseen, began to break. The harmony shattered like glass.
Suddenly, he was no longer himself. He was her, running. Her breath came in sharp, rugged bursts as her feet struck the moonstone path, slick with snow and ash. Bells rang in the distance, alarm bells, followed by screams rising like a tidal wave behind her. Serena! She turned. Raveth, bloodied, wounded, but still standing, still fighting. No! She cried, her voice breaking. The amulet! We have to get it! I have it, he said, pulling it free from beneath his shirt. He handed it to her. Serena took it from him quickly, clutching it close as fear flashed in her eyes. They're coming, she whispered. We can't go back. The eastern path is blocked. This way, Raveth urged, already pulling her toward a narrow path leading into the hollow glen. I won't let him take you. They ran, through collapsing arches, over broken stone bridges, through fire and falling debris. Serena stumbled once, clutching her stomach, but Raveth caught her, steadying her before she fell. Behind them, the black guard advanced like a tide of darkness, and at their head rode King Verin. In the dream, he was no longer fully human. Cloaked in crimson shadow, his eyes burned like coals. The air around him whispered something sinister. Then, the ambush. It came fast and brutal. Blades flashed in every direction, as Raveth fought like a man possessed, but there were too many. He was struck from behind and dragged down. Serena screamed, "No!" She turned to run, but hands seized her, rough, unyielding. She fought, kicking, clawing, screaming, but it was too late. As they dragged her towards the Black Palace, Darian felt everything. Her panic, her terror, her fury. He tried to cry out through her lips, but no sound came. And then, the dream cracked again, ripping through the vision like lightning across dark water. The walls of the Black Palace were made of obsidian stone, cold and slick with the damp breath of old magic. The torches burned blue, casting twisted shadows that danced along the ceiling like spirits, mourning what had been lost. Serena was dragged through the corridor, her body bruised, her spirit fractured, but her eyes, they were fire. Varin awaited her in the throne chamber, seated on a raised dais carved from midnight rock. He wore a crown of onyx and bone, the teeth of fallen beasts threaded through the iron. His eyes were empty pits of ambition, fixed on her with a hunger that had nothing to do with care and everything to do with lust and legacy. "You are the last," he said when she was forced to kneel. "The blood of the Moonweaver still courses through you, and with that blood I shall undo the curse that binds my throne." "You mistake your curse for fate," Serena spat, blood flecking her lips, "and your throne for destiny, but neither were ever yours." Varin stood and descended the steps slowly, each footfall echoing through the chamber like the ticking of a clock, counting down something dreadful. "You will give me what I require," he said simply.
Willingly or not, the moon chose you. Now I choose your purpose. She tried to resist. Backed into a corner, she summoned the echo of her ancestors' power. Her fingers curled into claw-like arcs, her breath came in low growls, and her eyes flashed wolf gold. But she was weakened, her spirit bruised by the loss of Raveth, her strength hollowed by the betrayal of her kin. Varian was swift, his hands opened, and what seemed like a powder of sorts sprinkled all over her. Serena's power stilled. She dropped, unconscious and defenseless. Darian was startled out of his sleep state, his mind wrestling with the thought of what Varian had done to her. It sickened him.
The amulet lay pulsing on his chest, its inscriptions carved in a language that whispered in his mind, though he'd never learnt it. He pulled the blanket over himself and leaned his head back, the steady lull of motion and the amulet's warmth tugging at his consciousness. Sleep crept over him again like a fog. And then the dream continued. It was not a memory, not his anyway, but it was vivid. He stood in a hallway of black stone, the walls breathing with the residue of old magic. The scent of blood and sorrow clung to everything. He moved as if guided, invisible feet carrying him forward until he reached a chamber lit by flickering torches. There, a woman knelt on the floor, blood streaking her pale thighs, skin bruised, her hands pressed to her belly, her breath ragged, her mouth moved in prayer. She looked up suddenly, her eyes locking onto his. And even though it was a vision from the past, he felt it, the connection. "Darian," she whispered, not at him, but into the void. "Forgive me." The room swirled, and the image shifted. Now she was fleeing through the forest, wind tangling her hair, her arms wrapped protectively around her belly. Behind her, the howls of Varian's wolves thundered through the trees, and beside her a man, a blur of familiar eyes and scent, fought them off. Raveth, his father, had helped Serena escape the clutches of the wicked king. Raveth had been killed defending his wife. Darian jolted awake, sweat beading his brow, the train still in motion. The amulet seared against his skin like it had absorbed the dream. His breath came sharp and even, chest rising and falling as though he had been running. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. The echoes of the dream still clung to him. Serena's fear, Raveth's fall, the weight of something ancient and broken. Then, the train, the low, steady rumble beneath him, the dim cabin light, reality returning in fragments.
But the feeling did not leave. His hand moved instinctively to his chest. The amulet. It burned beneath his palm, not painfully, but intensely, alive. He gripped it, fingers tightening around the cool silver edge as the violet core pulsed against his skin. Once, twice, then faster, like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. A strange sensation curled through him, pulling, stretching, as though something far away was reaching back. Darian froze. He wasn't alone. Not physically, but somewhere, beyond distance, beyond time, someone was there. A presence, though faint, it was familiar. His breath slowed, and then he heard it, a whisper, soft, barely there, like wind brushing against the edges of his mind. Darian. He stiffened. His eyes darted toward the empty cabin. Nothing, only silence. But the voice had been real, not the echo of a dream, something else, something reaching for him. His grip on the amulet tightened. The violet light flared suddenly, brighter than before, casting faint reflections against the cabin walls, and for the briefest moment, he felt her. Not as a memory, not as a vision, but as something living, somewhere out there, waiting. The feeling vanished as quickly as it came. The amulet dimmed. The cabin fell still again, but Darian remained frozen, heart racing, mind reeling, because now he was certain. The dreams were not just memories, they were leading him, guiding him towards something or someone. Slowly, he leaned back against the seat, his hand still resting over the amulet. His eyes drifted toward the window. Outside, the mist had begun to thin. Dawn was coming, and with it, answers, or something far more dangerous. The amulet gave one final pulse, soft, deliberate, like a promise or a warning. Darian closed his eyes, but this time,
He did not sleep.